can just maybe give a thumbs up on the chat room. Just let us know you can hear us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. So you are all welcome. Good morning once again. My name is Peter Osuere, the CTO of Cyberspace. We welcome you to today's webinar titled Backdoors, Loopholes, Swipes, Zero Trust Solutions, and Insider Threats. It will be good for us to have some little understanding on the background and implications of what we are trying to look at today. So we have an entire outlay in the industry and how the industry has transitioned from age to age. So we have the industry transitioning from trust to partial trust to full trust, zero knowledge. You have a transition to zero trust, zero knowledge. And in the near future, as a matter of fact, which is where we are heading towards now, is transitioning to zero trust, full knowledge. These are all transitions that has taken place in the industry as we speak. As we go, we are speaking to what is actually obtainable in the meantime, which is actually global today. So Gartner has actually published that by the year 2025, you're going to be having about 70% of the new companies transitioning away from VPNs to zero trust based networks. And this is a phenomenon in the industry, and this is global. So taking a look at this topic today is quite interesting, and what we want to encourage the industry to pay attention. What is all of this is about, and where are we heading to? With me today, we are having the veteran in the industry that are going to handle this entire topic for clarity. We have with me Mr. Festus Amede, an industry expert in the security field, a fully certified information security manager. He has been in several training on the SaaS security in the US across the years. He holds MBAs in finance from the Lagos State University. Mr. Festus Amede is currently the chairman of the Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigeria Financial Institutions. Also with me today is another expert that will be delving down into some other cases and also having to run with for us some demos as it cut across what we just highlighted. He is Nick Sears. Nick Sears is responsible for directing the global business for the AppSOC ASPM and an AI security portfolio. He supports customers and partners in his role. Nick brings over 30 years of technology experience to help customers deliver on their application security and AI security journey. Is increasing efficiency and reducing risk. Prior to AppSOC, Nick held senior EMEA and global sales leadership position with cybersecurity vendors, including Lucas, CipherCloud, Nextplane, Attians, formerly FaceTime, and Fusion Software. It's expected to be an exciting and very knowledge-driven webinar. We need to pay attention as we go to the first speaker. Please welcome with me, Mr. Festus Amede. Thank you. Mr. Festus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to be with you. Please permit me to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes,
all right. So good morning, everyone. And let me thank Cyberspace and AppSOC for bringing this interesting topic to us, speaking to backdoors, loopholes, and swipes, zero trust solutions, and insider threats. Very interesting topic, and it's something that we excite every one of us to actually listen to and also ask questions, because it has a lot of impact on cybersecurity. Before we even go into the topic, sorry, can you still see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So going into the topic, let's look at some of the security concerns or some cybersecurity facts and figures. The first on top there is there are over 2,200 attacks each day. So as we are here, attacks are going on. And according to publication from Cobalt, over 2,000 attacks each day, which dovetail to one attack every 39 seconds. And also, it's interesting also to hear that internal actors were deliberate, whether deliberate or accidental, were responsible for 37.45% of the detected incidents. I think this speaks to the insider threat, whereby internal actors are also contributing almost 50%. Then worldwide cybercrime costs are estimated to hit 10.5 trillion annually by 2025. 2025 is just not up to 2 months before we get to 2025. And this budget estimated amount annually for cybercrime is something that everybody needs to be worried about, and which emphasize the need for enhanced cybersecurity measures. Next is 85% of cybersecurity professionals attribute increase in cyber attack to the use of generative AI by bad actors. We have been hearing of artificial intelligence. We also hear of machine learning. And interestingly, we have also been hearing of generative AI. And 85% of the cyber professionals attribute the increase in cyber attack to the use of Gen AI. Of course, with the Gen AI advantage of predicting what can happen next, you can see its adoption in even deepfakes and phishing, whereby people can easily fall victim of cyber attack. So it's not surprising that 85% of the cyber professionals attributed the increase in cyber attack to Gen AI. And lastly, 55% of cybersecurity experts have reported increase in stress level due to hiding cybersecurity threats and challenges. Why not? Where everybody, today you see a lot of cyber attacks here and there. Many people are falling prey to cyber criminal, being it phishing or the rest. And all this comes to the decks of the cybersecurity folks. And the issue here is that the board are asking questions. Customers are asking questions. With all the expenditure, with all the promises, why are we still having this volume of attacks? So what are some of the things that are leading to some of those concerns, some of those facts we have seen? It speaks to the topic of today: backdoors, loopholes, swipes, and insider threat. In a layman's, for general understanding, what is a backdoor? Normally, you expect that door should be at the front and people will come into the right channel. But you now have a situation whereby we have backdoors, which are intentional or malicious method by bypassing security. So you have a system in place, all the protections are in place, but however, somewhere along the line, somebody somewhere have created a channel where someone else can come into the system or the application unnoticed. Then why loophole speaks to all the exploitable weaknesses in security measures. Those are the loopholes. Yeah, you have loopholes or you have vulnerabilities that cannot be exploited. But when we are talking of loopholes, we are speaking mainly to the exploitable weaknesses in security measures. Then swipes. Today, we hear a lot of phishing, we hear a lot of cyber criminal stealing sensitive credentials or sensitive information from customers. And they used this credential to commit one havoc or the other. Then the last among the concerns is insider threat. It's a type of cyber attack originating from an individual who works for an organization. So when a staff of an organization is involved, it could be malicious, it could be compromise, or it could be as a result of carelessness. Or where someone, a third party or end party that has been given authorized access to the network or the system, take advantage of the access he has, or due to some carelessness or vulnerability on their system, grant access to an existing system. That speaks to insider attack. So explaining further, backdoors, like I said, can allow attackers to steal data. They can also install malicious software or take control of systems without being detected. If a backdoor is discovered by a malicious actor, it can lead to significant security breaches as they can gain control without detection. This can further compromise integrity of system and data. I've seen experience of, I think one of the, when this was mentioned, one of the things that came to my mind is the challenge, the attack we saw that happened even in Lebanon, whereby we saw pager being detonated, pagers being used by the Hezbollah. And it was credited to Israel to have launched that attack. That is a perfect example of a backdoor being created on a physical device. And whatever be the bomb that was planted on those devices were activated at a time. And somebody remotely activated those bombs, and before you know it, they started detonating, which led to the death of over 20 people. So backdoor is very, very scary, whereby for cyber criminals, instead of attacking every organization, why focusing on attacking every organization if you can plant a backdoor on a software, and whomever that buys that software, you have access to them. So it's something that we should watch out for whenever you are buying a solution, to make sure that there are no backdoors that cyber criminal can actually infiltrate your infrastructure. Loopholes. Like I mentioned before, this might include unpatched software vulnerabilities, improper configuration, or overlooked security protocols. What is the risk of having loopholes? Exploiting a loophole can allow attacker to access system and data that should be protected, often without triggering security alerts. So every application today have one loophole or the other. And whenever you are implementing any application, it is always advisable to carry out vulnerability scans, to also carry out a pen testing. And the purpose of this is to identify any loophole. So it is better for you to assume that whatever application you have might have one loophole or the other, because the cost of managing an application that has a loophole is enormous, because when exploited, the organization will have many questions to answer, or could find themselves on the negative side of the news. So you just have to ensure that You carry out adequate security controls by carrying out vulnerability assessment and adequate pen testing to ensure that any identified loophole is mitigated. Speaking to loopholes, and you talk about applications, we have OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities highlighted here. The first in the list have to do with a broken authentication. And that vulnerability allows an authorized user to access or modify or delete data they should not naturally have access to. So these are some of the things you need to check before you deploy any application, especially the web application. Then we look at cryptography, speaking to encryption. Ensure that all sensitive information are encrypted, because failure to encrypt data leads to lack of protection, which can be exploited to gain unauthorized access. Then the next thing, the number 3 item there is injection. We are talking of untrusted input or unauthorized code being injected to an application. So if you don't do input sanitizations, you will find a situation whereby cyber criminal can inject code in some fields. And of course, this code injected into a program, and they can also be interpreted as part of a query or command. And before you know it, those injection will issue some command which will cause the application to react in a way that it ought not to. Then another thing is insecure design. It's always good to have security embedded in your design. We talk about maker checker, ensure that whatever you are designing, there are controls in place so that somebody cannot start and finish. This speaks to also ensuring that whatever you are designing have least privileges, so that you don't give people access to what they don't even require naturally while carrying out their job. You must have security in design. Today, we talk about multi-factor authentication, that why should somebody just use username and password, which has two static information, and they gain access to a system. So by design, you must ensure that best security processes are in place to make sure that whatever you are putting out there, whatever application you are putting out there, does not cause you any harm. Then security misconfiguration. There are a lot of system or application settings in every application that, if they are not correctly configured, could lead to disclosures of some sensitive information. We see situations whereby if you listen to most of the breaches that might have happened, you find out that, that most of the applications, especially in the cloud, most of the breaches are always blamed on security misconfigurations. So in configuring your application, whether being on premise or in the cloud, you have to ensure that the settings are well configured. Settings that speaks to things that will prevent, like states, for example, you have to do something like rate limiting to prevent brute force. Because if you don't configure that, somebody can carry out a brute force attack, and before you know it, gain unauthorized access. There are different configurations in the system. Whenever we're saying, okay, somebody wants to log onto a system, it's okay, how many fail login attempts before the person is blocked from having access? So different types of configurations. I think somewhere along login is there. You have to make sure that there's adequate login, there is for auditing and all that. So it will help you to ensure that your applications are secured. One thing that is also that we should be mindful of, how to be vulnerable and outdated applications. You have to make sure that applications that you are putting out there are not running on a vulnerable framework. Because if they are running on any framework or operating system that has some known vulnerabilities, then the company is exposed. You create loopholes for malicious users of the applications to actually attack your organization. And we have seen this in different attacks. That is why we always say that when Microsoft say, oh, every second Tuesday of the month is Patch Tuesday, that means Wednesday is an exploit Wednesday. Because the moment a vulnerability is known, then cyber criminal will try to exploit all those known vulnerabilities to ensure that they try to attack organizations to actually carry out extrication of information should the organization not comply to carrying out necessary update. It could be the patch update, it could be upgrading the OS entirely. Then the next is identification and authentication flaws, whereby we are not carrying out proper authentication or authorization of users on the platform. How do you identify users? How do you authenticate users? I mentioned multi-factor authentication, which the least among them is two-factor authentication, to make sure that you're not just using two static information, but also come with not just what you have, but whom you are. It could be your biometric, it could be biometric authentication, or what you have, it could be a token, a hardware token that you need to also impute a token over and above password. So it's good to make sure that identification and authorization are key, and ensure there are no flaws in coming from your application due to improper authentication, whereby cyber criminals or malicious insider can gain unauthorized access to sensitive information. The next, number 8 there, is software and data integrity failure. And this speaks to unauthorized modification, because the information you have in any application, in any infrastructure, should remain what it is. If somebody can vary any of the figures without the knowledge of the people administrating that solution, then the integrity of the system is being questioned. Then another thing that we should be mindful of have to be security logging and monitoring flaws. And this speaks to improper logging, improper monitoring. We have to make sure that we log all activities that are happening in any application, because as lagging as auditing may look like, audit is a very, very important tool in security, because when things happen, you need to know what has happened. Most importantly, even before things go wrong, you have to go through the logs and ensure that you can see some patterns, because things don't just happen. Oftentimes they give signs, and even in cybersecurity, a cyber criminal cannot just gain access to your network today and hit you today and you lose a lot of funds. Oftentimes, they might even start with understanding your network, running some query to get a good understanding of your application or your network. If you look at your log, you will see some query that does not conform with the protocol of the systems that have been designed. So very, very important to ensure that we don't have flaws when it comes to logging and monitoring. Then the last is server-side request forgery, SSFR. And this speaks to when an attacker abuses the functionalities of the server, causing it to access or manipulate the information in the realm of that server that ordinarily will otherwise not be directly accessible to the attacker. So the next is swipes. Like I've mentioned in my introduction, what are swipes? Every day we see cyber criminal trying to trick users to behave in the way they ought not to. And cyber criminals, or let me say social engineering, they always win, social engineers. Anybody could fall prey to social engineering. And those are the things we call swipes, whereby a cyber criminal will trick somebody to release sensitive information. Today, we see a lot of WhatsApp attack, where somebody will call you to join that a code has been sent for a Zoom meeting or for a prayer meeting, and before you know it, if you are not careful, maybe because it's something that speaks to you or it's a discussion that is ongoing, before you know it, you release such code and the rest will be history because your WhatsApp will be taken. So you need to quickly see how you can get your WhatsApp back. Otherwise, they use it to solicit funds. Swipes can also happen where they send phishing email, and before you know it, people say, oh, click a link, and you click a link thinking your customers or yourself will click a link, thinking that in your authorized website, and before you know it, you release credential information that could be used to attack you. And if it's for financial transaction, they will steal your phone. If it's for an organization, they can steal some sensitive information that will make them gain unauthorized access that could lead to a broader data breach. Then the other major thing to be that we are looking at today is insider threat. A staff, or it could be somebody that also has access to the organization. I'm talking about a third party who is not a staff. So because he has an authorized access, such a person can either be a malicious user or a compromised user. So yes, you are a user in the organization. You are not malicious, but you have been compromised. Your sensitive information to gain access to the organization system is compromised. Therefore, using that compromised information, they can gain unauthorized access to the system. At times, you might not have been compromised, but you are just careless. Some people log on and they didn't log out. Meanwhile, they have some sensitive access. And before you know it, a malicious person can quickly carry out some malicious activity, knowing fully that such activity will not be accredited to them because they're using another user's authorization. So for malicious insider, when someone with an organization like an employee or contractor, like I said, use their access to harm the organization, this could lead to stealing data, sabotaging system, or leaking of confidential information. Then, with all these challenges we have discussed, talking of backdoors, talking of loopholes, talking of swipes, talking of an insider threat, it just best suggests that today we should not just leave our system or trust every employer or any person that connects to our system. And that leads to the concept of zero trust. Initially, we're saying trust but verify. So do not trust anyone, even if the person is a high flyer in the organization, even if the person is a security expert. Ensure that you adopt some principle like least privilege. Do not give people the privilege they don't require. Oh, it's a staff, he's used to working, so even if he has admin, no problem. No, no, no. You must give people access to information that are necessary for their job function, not excessive information. Verify every identity that is coming into your network. which IP address are they coming from? Who is logging in? Is he using, I've also mentioned two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. Ensure that your identity is top-notch. The micro-segmentation, also very, very important because it will help you even in managing a least privilege. Continuous monitoring. I spoke to monitoring before. That monitoring is very, very important because things don't just happen. They always give signs. And it's always good for you to assume that you have been breached. Because if you don't have that assumption, like when I'm called, how are we safe? I say, well, as we speak, we are under attack, but we are working so hard to ensure that those attacks does not lead to any successful data breach. Data protection is very, very key today. We are, especially for banks, one of our major concerns is the data of our customer to ensure that there's no leakage of data. The unfortunate thing is that the moment those mistakes have been made due to one person in the ecosystem or the other, and data is lost, you cannot easily get those data. You can't get those data back. Whatever data that is in the hand of cyber criminal, even if they tell you to pay ransom to release your data, there is no guarantee that when you pay the ransom, those data will be released. So we just have to ensure that we adopt zero trust because it reduces the risk of breach and also enhance our compliance status and improve our incident response. So these are some of the architecture of zero trust. I've mentioned identity. We've talked about application, network, data, infrastructure, and devices. I think I have to stop here so that I can give room for the professor in the house today to actually take us to the next stage, talking about Nick Sears. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Festus. That is laudable. And indeed, we quite have a whole lot to extract from that. So we're going to run a little bit now. Please, we have earlier informed the House that questions will come after the presentation. So we just want to admonish you again. Please note all questions because after this next presentation, we're going to go through a simple demonstration and then you can drop all your questions. So we need you to take note of that. Please don't forget any questions, just take note of it. And if you can also continue to start posting them on the Q&A while we compile them so that we can also run with the time. At this time right now, we're going to welcome Nick Sears. Nick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for attending the session, and thank you to Cyberspace for having me on the session. Can I just check, Mr. Peter, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Nick Sears. I'm one of the VPs here at AppSOC. It's a company that provides application security and AI security and governance solutions. And really, I'm going to follow on from Mr. Festus' presentation and try and talk about how we can apply some zero trust principles to the topic of AI. Of course, AI is the hot topic right now. And it's interesting that zero trust was a principle, a framework that has been around for quite some time, but kind of precedes AI. So now we need to think about upgrading our thinking to include AI security and protecting ourselves in the new world of AI. So hopefully my kind of short 4-step approach you'll see at the end will be of interest. So in terms of agenda today, just to give you a view of what's coming in this session. So really going to look at some of the top security considerations, particularly around OWASP. For example, Mr. Festus talked about the OWASP top 10 for application security. Actually, there is an enhanced OWASP top 10 for AI, for large language models. So we'll talk a little bit about that. and also some of the kind of responsibility models that you'll face kind of moving forwards on your journey to adopt AI. We're all on that journey, and we're all in maybe different stages of that journey. And hopefully my 4-step guide to how we see organizations kind of coping with the onslaught of AI, maybe taking a zero trust approach to security on that. So, and then we'll get to a short demo. So a big question, first of all, following on from Mr. Festus and some of the statistics, it's interesting here that we're seeing in global market research, this one from IBM, they're telling us that 82% of large enterprises are either using already or experimenting, maybe in their data science teams or other teams, with AI applications. So pretty much everybody's doing it now, and if not, they soon will be. But then on the other side of the house, we see that most people are feeling that they're not yet prepared for the security challenges that AI poses, and maybe that goes to what that statistic that Mr. Festus gave, which is that 85% of cyber attacks were attributed to some kind of generative AI being used. So these numbers kind of kind of logically go together, I guess. So AI is coming, and most of us are unprepared, I think is the key statement. And let's talk about why that is, because AI, we've had security principles, zero trust as well, have been around for many time. We understand the principles of checking for existing vulnerabilities in different kinds of systems, for checking the security posture of different kinds of infrastructure. We also learned a lot about these kind of principles with the rapid adoption of cloud, and we can take a lot of lessons from cloud security as we move into AI. But there are some things happening in AI that are different and cause us to have to expand our thinking. So what we have seen is an explosive growth of AI, and security has not been able to keep up. And one of the reasons for that is that the security teams are not always aware of what kind of AI activity is taking place in their organization. We have various different data science teams, for example, researching and training data sets and fine-tuning LLM models without security even being involved, and we'll see why that's a risk. And the concept of a large language model is not something that we've ever come across before in our normal kind of security practice. This is a new concept. So we're seeing that AI builders are often bypassing security. So when we talk about backdoors and loopholes, AI is probably the largest backdoor and loophole that any organization is going to face in the next few years. And what we're also seeing is that there is a widespread use of open source large language models. So for those of you that maybe this is kind of new content, but there is an open source repository of AI models called Hugging Face. And this has seen explosive growth. There are now over 1 million different large language models that are published on Hugging Face, that anyone in a company, any one of your users, or maybe data science teams can go and download, and then they can start to use that model within, they can embed that into their own process and applications. So this open source repository called Hugging Face is very popular with data scientists. But the challenge comes, as with any kind of software found on the internet, it's an open source repository. There is no governance, there is no lineage of the model. There's no check on the data, and what we have seen actually sorry, I skipped there. What we have seen is that there have been malware-infected models published on the Hugging Face repository. So it's entirely possible, if we talk about backdoors, that someone in your organization who is researching AI with all the best intentions could find a nice large language model that's suitable for their applications, and they could download that and they could integrate that with another business application, publish it to customers, and maybe there's some malware in it, right? I mean, we definitely saw these supply chain attacks happening pre-AI with things like Log4j and SolarWinds and these kind of attacks. So supply chain attacks via AI are going to be a huge security concern. What we have also seen is that the security framework companies, people like OWASP, but also the US NIST, and maybe even ISO, have started to build frameworks for security. So where there is for example, the OWASP top 10, there is also an OWASP top 10 for large language model applications, which basically AI-enabled applications. And there are some very specific vulnerabilities that exist in the world of AI, which do not exist in kind of normal non-AI world. So you can see here some things like prompt injection, supply chain vulnerabilities, data model theft. One thing we have to remember, of course, is that when you develop or your companies are developing AI-enabled applications, the AI element of that application is connecting to your existing data that application has access to. So that connection from AI to the application gives the AI and any potential hacker or malicious actor access to your sensitive data. So that comes back to that other zero trust principle of data protection. And of course, what we have seen is that there's been a large global movement to try and regulate around the use of AI and secure AI. I did check actually from a Nigerian perspective. I don't believe there is any specific Nigerian AI Act now, but I did see that there's a lot of discussion, and the government are pushing on that. So we've seen this in nearly every country, particularly in the European market, the European Union AI Act, which starts to govern the kinds of things that you should be thinking about if you're going to be using or providing AI-based systems. So it's not only security we have to think about, we also have to think about governance and regulation, and of course, particularly if we're in a regulated industry like financial services. So also, it's good to keep an eye on what's going on with the global AI regulations as well. So one thing that I wanted to mention, because is this shared responsibility model, and you may have seen something like this before. As we started to consume cloud services and SaaS-based systems, this shared responsibility model was published actually originally by Microsoft, but it also applies to the world of AI. So depending where organizations are on their AI journey, for example, they may be consuming what I call Copilot. So maybe they're consuming an application like GitHub, which has an AI Copilot, or Salesforce, which has an AI Copilot, or a browser like Microsoft, which has an AI Copilot. So whether your users are consuming Copilots or actually you're building applications and embedding AI data models, then you have some different responsibility. And we do hear often from customers, we talk about this, and their response will be, well, that's okay because I'm using Microsoft Azure OpenAI, and they'll take care of all the security. Or I'm using AWS SageMaker and Bedrock, and Amazon will take care of all the security, or XYZ vendor. And that in reality is not true. And this kind of responsibility model is just a way of kind of just putting some check marks on where a customer responsibility lies, depending on what kind of AI they're consuming. So, for example, we see kind of most companies that kind of sit in this in the left two areas. If you're building an AI application, you're responsible for all of the kind of access control, identity management, data governance, all the way through to the actual compute infrastructure that's sitting inside something like AWS that's going to be running these AI applications. On the other side, if you're just consuming, if your users are just using a Microsoft browser and using ChatGPT, for example, or Copilot, then maybe you just need to think about the access controls of this. But somewhere in between here, depending on your journey, there will be different risks. And those risks can be summarized really here as kind of like a top 10, if you like, of what we see organizations worried about. First of all, is visibility, and actually, it's a zero trust principle to gain visibility. So we often see that organizations, when we talk to security executives, they know that there is AI research and development going on in their company, but they have no risk of what the infrastructure is or what the data models or the large language models are, the data sets. They have no visibility. And of course, that leads to things like, well, okay, if I have no visibility, I can't ascertain the risk of the model. I can't make sure my MLOps platforms are configured correctly. I might have excessive permissions. I might be susceptible to data leaks or even licensing risk. I mean, every data model has a license. And if you don't know what models are being used, you don't know what licenses you're liable for. And the OWASP risk we've talked about. So there's a lot of risk, that is on top of your normal security considerations. So what can you do about it? So for us, irrespective of which AI ML platform you might have chosen, and some companies have multiple, so it could be Databricks, or it might be OpenAI or AWS or something else. We kind of think there are kind of two main areas. So one is, as you're building AI applications, and then as you get into a runtime situation where you're running an AI application, which maybe your banking customers or your customers are accessing. So for us, the first step is visibility, understanding what elements of AI are actually in your environment. So gaining visibility into LLM pipelines, data sets, notebooks, to understand the risk of each of the models that are present, understand where they came from and their risk level, and then to ensure some governance so that you know what are approved models and what may be unapproved models. And that leads on to kind of what I would call or align to kind of traditional, things like virus and malware scanning, but performing it on the models. So being able to perform static and dynamic model scanning of let's say Jupyter notebooks, which are ways of compacting code, which then make calls to data models, identifying any API calls that a large language model may make to another system, and correlating that AI element with any other risks that an application may have. Because, of course, all software applications have vulnerabilities. That's why we have software testing, we have vulnerability scanners, we have things like the CISA Kev list for known existing vulnerabilities, and you should be tracking those. But understanding an AI application's risk has to be done by correlating the AI element and how it connects with the rest of the application. So you have to have a total application level view, if you like. So we want to make sure that we're scanning models, things like scanning models for malware, scanning models for vulnerabilities, for API calls to other systems. Then the third, and this kind of aligns to what we did in the cloud world. If you're familiar with cloud security, you'll know the term CSPM, or Cloud Security Posture Management. Well, in the AI world, there are some additional things, not just cloud posture management that has to take place, but also posture management for the MLOps platforms. So this is the OpenAI, the Databricks, the SageMakers of this world. So we want to make sure we're detecting any misconfigurations and ensure continuous compliance with our internal policies. Of course, we want to make sure that our data models are not, open to unauthorized access. That goes back to that zero trust principle. We don't want our models to be stolen because we're fine-tuning them for our business. And of course, because our AI applications the model is acting on a very large a trained data set, that data set is very important to us. So we don't want to have a data protection issue or data theft issue, any kind of poisoning issue. And then finally, the fourth step, many companies have not, may have not got to this step yet. I think a lot of the companies we talk to are actually in their journey are at stage 1, 2, and going into 3. And 4 becomes the next step where as the AI application is actually running, we want to monitor the prompts and responses to make sure there are no threats that are in a live application, protect our sensitive data, make sure no malicious code is being kind of injected to the process, and even we want to perform data protection. So as a kind of use case example, if you're interacting, or if one of your customers was interacting with an AI-enabled financial services application, you wouldn't want that AI to basically send a credit card number in the chat to a customer in the open. So we can start to use other existing technologies like DLP, for example, to enforce policies on AI runtime defense. So if we see a credit card number, maybe we mask it, or we block it, or we take some policy action. If it's sensitive personal information, whatever your policy is for data protection, we can enforce that in the AI world. So that's kind of my 4 steps. In the interest of time, I'm going to stop there and flick very quickly to I'll just show you on the demo a couple of quick things. Could I just check, Mr. Peter or somebody? Could you just check you can still see my screen, the dashboard?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll do this very quickly. So if we align to there we go. I've been locked out already. Just give me 1 second. So basically, I'm just going to kind of walk you through 5 minutes of what this looks like, if I have time to do that. So effectively what we've done, AppSOC provides a platform to take you through that journey of the 4 steps. So everything in those 4 steps you'd expect us to deliver. The first step was visibility. So here, what I've done basically, I'm connected to my AWS or my Databricks or whatever MLOps platform I have that's just done through an API. And we're discovering the models and data sets that are being used in as part of AI research. So they may not be in an application. These are just things that we see that are in the cloud environment that your teams may be working with, and it gives security teams visibility. So here you can see I've got 3 high-risk models that I found in my scan. And I've got a whole bunch of critical findings that have come back up in those models. I'll talk about that in a second. I can see that I've actually got some models which, there are 5 licenses because every model has a license. And this comes down to zero trust as well. Is why would you want a model being used in your company where you have no clue what your license, what the source of the model was, right? So here you can see that there are, licenses don't exist, or it's a non-standard license for that particular model. So you might want to go and understand what that model is. And the same way, there are also what we call unknown model publishers. So why on earth would you want AI models being used in your company where you don't know who the publisher is, right? It's like failing on zero trust at every level. So here you can see that I've got 4 models in my environment where I don't know who the publisher of that model is, and yet it's being used in my company. So that is not a good thing. So you want to, at this point, drill down into more detail. And then I can see that I have the concept of approved models and unapproved models. So for us, an approved model is one that's gone through maybe an internal impact assessment, and has been connected to another kind of business application. An unapproved model is something that's not yet gone through that process. So you can see here I get the breakdown, and then down here you can see my discovered models. These are my 3 high-risk models, and you can see that we actually give different models a risk score. And like a vulnerability scanner, you can see that I've got findings that range from critical, high, medium, low. And I can see the volume, and I can see the original source of that model. So this top one has come from Hugging Face, for example. And then I can drill down, like I've got 4 critical level issues I found on this model by scanning it. This is the model scanning coming into play. And you can see here that actually in that particular model, I found an instance of prompt injection, because we know what that looks like. And we've actually found malware in that model. So there's no way that model should be used in our company, and we should make sure that's dealt with. So that's an indication of model scanning. And for each of these models, I can take some actions. I can make an approved connection to an AI application, and then we track those things together. Or I can run a new model scan, and the model scan basically is checking for all those things that I mentioned. That's what gives these findings output. And then I can also see the the connected applications. So you can see here that actually I've got a model that's actually making a connection out to Salesforce. And that's been approved, but I've also got some unapproved and unexpected situations. I've got this particular source of code, a model making a connection out to from my fintech application out to Workday, and I didn't know that was taking place. So that's visibility that I didn't have before. And then finally, on this page, you have that step 4, which was the runtime protection. So here you can see examples of policies for financial information or prompt injection type attacks where we've had policies. We're looking in the AI interactions, the application, and looking at the prompt and response. And as an example, on this top one, we're looking for credit card numbers. So basically, we have a policy here says, well, if we see a credit card number in a prompt or a response, then we want to take some action. And once we see the violation of that policy, it comes up here, and then we can, escalate it for further investigation or whatever, raise some tickets. So these are the kind of the visibility, model scanning, and data protection elements of tracking AI elements. The final piece, just very quickly, was the posture management, right? That was number 3 in my 4 steps. So here we want to make sure that the posture of our MLOps platforms, a little bit like our cloud environments, is meeting our requirements. So here you can see that I've got 85 critical level issues that are detected. I'm tracking each of the high, medium, critical, and critical, high, medium, and lows in different ways. So whether it's if you're using Databricks, for example, I can see all of the issues here that my scanner has found with my Databricks. So you can see here Azure Databricks, and now you can see all of the posture issues and their risks that are associated with that particular environment. Same we can do for Azure AI or AWS, same thing. And so as an example here, we also map all of the findings of our scan to the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, as we mentioned earlier. So here, for example, LM06 is really about sensitive information disclosure or data protection. We talked about that in Zero Trust. And I have 12 critical issues. So if I click on the 12, I can go to, okay, here are my issues. Here's all the risk scoring. I've got details, and for example, you can see the status here. Some are under investigation, some are still open. So maybe if I look at this open one, I can drill down into that particular vulnerability or misconfiguration, get all the details about the risk scoring, where the misconfiguration exists, any details about this issue. I can see it's still open. I can see that it's actually already outside of my SLA that I've defined. And then I can start to take some action on this. And we have full remediation in our platform. So if I'm using Jira or maybe ServiceNow for a ticketing system, I can raise tickets. I can take some actions to start an investigation, to close the issue, to request an exception. Maybe it's a false positive. I can mark that. Or, and I don't have it connected in my demo system here, but I could create a Jira ticket or a ServiceNow ticket, and that would send a ticket to the right and correct remediation team. So we're able to perform this full discovery of models and data sets. We're able to do model scanning. We're able to maintain a continuous maintenance of security posture of your AI infrastructure, your MLOps infrastructure, and also provide that remediation workflow through to ticketing and closure. So I've done that in a bit of a hurry. Sorry, I did trying to fit stuff back into time, but hopefully that gives you a good view of some of the things to consider in terms of applying Zero Trust principles to the world of AI. And of course, I'm sure there'll be follow-up, but if there's any questions, then we can take it in the session. Thank you, Mr. Peter. Back to you.
Thank you so very much, Nick Sears. Quite appreciate that full knowledge flow. So at this stage, we're going to quickly go into the question and answer session. Like we said earlier, you can drop the questions quickly on the chats, and also you can also see if you have any other medium you want to use to send the questions, just go ahead and send the questions at the moment so that we can start taking them up immediately. So we're going to start quickly with the questions and answers right now. In no order, we want to request Mr. Festus and Nick to please, we accept the question is very direct. If it's not, we want to keep it open so that you could actually speak to it from the broad knowledge perspective. The first question here says that as a newly established financial organization, what are the basic security that should be implemented considering the low maturity of the organization and to prevent data breaches? Mr. Festus, I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I understand where that could be coming from because as a newly established organization, maturity is still very low. So the most important thing is that you start off with adopting some framework in your architecture, talking about the NIST framework. If it's a bank, of course, you can't do without the CBN cybersecurity framework. And for your applications, you must ensure that you follow the best practices, secure coding practices. And for any application that you are going to put out there, ensure that you carry out code scanning and also penetration testing to make sure that any flaws will be identified, and especially flaws that can easily be exploited will be identified before you go live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Festus. Nick, do you have any input to that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, 100% agree. The other, for more information, actually, we've used reference in today's session to OWASP a few times. Actually, there are some really great guidelines from OWASP and other organizations that are very similar, like the MITRE, for example, for the MITRE Atlas framework. And they make recommendations as to kind of minimum security requirements. So another suggestion would be spend some time kind of reviewing MITRE and OWASP, and if that's all you do, given obviously everyone is constrained with resource and cost, then as long as you're adhering to one of those things, then you're on the right path.
Thank you so very much. You can actually not go wrong working from the perspective of the framework. The industries are built around the framework. The industries are built around their regulations, and the standards that runs in those regulations are actually controlled from the framework. So you can't go wrong. The next question says, this is from Madara Afia. He said, what role does responsible AI play in impeding attacks originating from flaws in the use of Gen AI? Maybe this goes to you, Nick, first.
Yeah, this is a great question. This is like one of those mind-blowing questions, right? Because you can have AI securing itself, right? And if you don't have secure AI, then it can't secure itself. So it's like going back to the Terminator movie. Yeah, I mean, of course, there's two for us. There are two aspects to AI, which sometimes get confused. One in the security space. One is using AI to improve a vendor's security product, right? And every security vendor now, will have, they'll be talking about the use of AI and how their product benefits from the use of AI. But that means that they've entered the world of developing an AI application themselves, right? So they have to make sure that is secure. But every security vendor is doing that. And then you've got other vendors who may be doing that or not, but in addition, and it's people like AppSOC and us and others, we want to make sure we're actually securing the AI application itself. So whether it's AI, trying to impede an attack originating from a flaw of Gen AI, an AI security solution will help with that, right? If all you're doing as a vendor is maybe you're a SIEM vendor or a vulnerability management vendor, and you're using some large language model that you got from Hugging Face to help do some training and help the existing customers may be more efficient with your product. You've got to be really careful, because you're now a builder of AI, and you need to make sure that that AI element that you expose to your customers is secure. So the focus should be on making sure AI, the AI platforms, the MLOps platforms, and your data are fully protected, using all the kind of procedures and frameworks that we've been talking about today.
Thank you so much, Nick. Mr. Festus, you have any input to that?
Well, just to say that as cyber criminals are adopting AI, it's also good for us to ensure that the security tools we're using to combat this war has to be also AI enabled. Over and above that, I think every organization needs to look at investment in AI. Get an AI tool, bring in all the logs you have together, and try to have some model, train some models so that you'll be able to identify attack before they even happen. Because the cyber criminal might not be privileged to see all the data you have. But because you have all the data, you can easily, using Gen AI, you can easily predict what can go wrong in your organization, because you can see the problem ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. That means that we need to have a view, separate these two areas. This is my AI, this is my AI security from the entire environment, so that this will help us to nail whatever issues we may be seeing. The next question says, is it possible to use AI to secure financial institutions, especially where insider threat access and fraud are concerned? Mr. Festus.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. You can use AI to secure financial institution. Insider threat is not a showstopper. It's not, because if you look at insider threat, you might not even go into the business at all, because anybody who, an average man has a price. Anybody could be weaponized. So, but you need to make sure that controls are in place so that when things happen, you have a way of knowing on time. So even in AI, when you have an AI system, of course, you know the people that you are giving access to. The access is not to every staff of the organization. Having collected all the data, there are teams that are saddled with managing those AI. And also you have a monitoring tool to monitor the activities of the privileged users, so that should somebody do what is supposed not to do or does anything wrong, you will also be notified. So you can use AI even with insider threat, but make sure that adequate controls are in place so that you don't give a weapon to a staff in the organization to actually wipe away the organization.
Thank you so much, Mr. Festus. So, Nick, do you have an input to that?
Yeah, for me, there are 2 points to that. I split it up. I would say, first of all, forget the AI piece for a moment. If you don't have the kind of basic principles of zero trust applied in the first place, like things like access control, who should, what kind of device should be able to access what kind of systems from where and when, normal zero trust principles, then you might as well forget the AI piece, because you haven't sorted out the basics yet, right? So the first thing is make sure that the basics are done. I think that's what Mr. Festus was saying. And on the second piece, yes, of course, you can use AI to help in that process. As we talked about earlier, lots of vendors are adding AI capabilities to their products, so that will help. But the big question remains, whose AI are you going to use, and how is that secured? Right? Who's trusting some third-party AI to help you in your insider threat? I mean, that's a big question, right? So that's why for us, it comes back to, if you are going to use AI, make sure it's secure.
Thank you so very much, Nick. So like I said earlier, the industry needs to separate these two fundamental areas. This is the AI, this is the security for the AI. This must be driven properly in the understanding of the industry for us to actually stay safe as best as we can. The next question there says, is it possible if hackers use AI, how well can AI defend against AI threats? Are there solutions that can do this? Nick?
Yeah, I mean, AI can do anything, right? I mean, it's software. AI is just more software, and software can be developed to do anything. So yes, of course, AI can try to defend itself. I mean, we've even seen that with things like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot and things. And that's why it's important to have checks when you're developing an AI application. Whoever is the developer of the application has to think about prompt injection, bias, all kinds of things that, because the last in it could be very easily to create a situation where if we become reliant on AI to defend itself, then we're going to be in real trouble. That's when the Terminator situation comes into play, right? So yeah, that's why AI security is so very important. It can do anything, but we have to make sure that what it's doing fits within our guardrails.
Thank you so very much. The presenter says a little bit earlier, a lot is on the offering, and there's a lot we will want to take some of these questions to each organizations and drive them properly deeper so that they will have a deep understanding and know how to approach training, VAPT, all of that is very much on ground for us to have a deep understanding of what we are trying to head into. The next question there, can you give some advice on how to integrate AI into proactive security for Nigerian fintechs and banks? Nick, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm probably not the best person to advise on how to use AI in your business, because my job is about securing whatever AI gets chosen, right? But definitely, what I would first say is perhaps review all of the different security products that you have already in your portfolio. I mean, that's one of the challenges we see for customers is they have so many different security tools, and all of those security tools are throwing out some kind of findings or vulnerabilities. So, just being able to prioritize through all that noise and work on the risks that are important to you is a challenge, and AI can definitely help with that. Making teams more efficient, allowing you to focus on the key risks, the risks that matter to you. I think that's the first step. And I would say take a look at existing products that you have, because I'm certain that every one of your security vendors will have some kind of AI feature that they've added in the last few months, or they will be adding in the next few months that will help use AI to help make their systems more proactive. So definitely review that. And then, of course, when you do use AI, make sure you secure it.
Thank you so very much, Nick. Mr. Festus.
Yes, so just to add to what Nick has said. So today, if you are buying a tool, what is in top of your mind is to ask, what AI capability does that tool have? Because you can't be defending AI attack with tools that are not AI intelligent. So, and that is why most of the security tool, you see them speak to their behavioral analysis, adopting AI to be able to improve the performance. Then you need to also look at the issue of fraud, for example. AI tools can be deployed in your anti-fraud solution because rule-based, you cannot, there are rules that have not come up because rules are insight of what you have seen in the past. But artificial intelligence is looking at patterns, behaviors over and above static rules. Yeah. So in fraud monitoring and fraud, combating fraud, AI will be very, very useful. And that is why I said before that an organization should look at how to bring their data together, have an AI tool that they can train a model. The major thing that they should be mindful of is to make sure that those information does not go out there. Because when that information is out there, those data will now also be used by the cyber criminal because the most important thing is data. AI is as intelligent as the data it receives. So let's make sure that our internal data remains internal so that fraudsters will not easily mine our internal data to attack us. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Festus. This insight is quite huge. The industry needs to come to speed in understanding these two core areas. So, and this will only be happening by the level of exposure. As we break this down to the minute level, the level of exposure will give rise to understanding what is more critical in the frame of things, so that we'll be properly secured, because it's a strong wind blowing coming up at the moment. So we have the next question here. It says that is Cyberspace a distributor and plan to work with channel partners or simply a partner? Can you also share the slides? How are pricing determined? Okay, I think this will be taken up with you. This will be taken up with the speaker. So please take note. The next question is it cloud-based or is on-prem or both? Nick, I think this question is going to you. Is asking direct question.
Yeah, sure. If it's related to AppSOC as a supplier, so actually generally we're cloud-based. We deploy in AWS ourselves, but we do appreciate that some companies want to have it on premise or in their own private cloud environment for some reason. So we can offer both. Of course, that goes back to that shared responsibility model that I talked about in my slide. That then applies, right? So if it's cloud-based, that means AppSOC is hosting the service, and we're responsible for the security posture of the service in our cloud. As soon as you put it on premise, the customer becomes responsible for that, right? So then all the other things like access control, infrastructure, security, all of those things come into play if you're going to deploy in your own environment. But from our perspective, both are okay.
All right, thank you. I think the next question is, I'll leave it for both of you to speak to it. It says, what is the difference between protecting with AI and protecting against AI? Mr. Festus, maybe you go first.
Very interesting question.
It is indeed.
Difference between protecting with
AI
and protecting
against
AI. Okay, so I think the one thing that is clear in this question is that AI is a technology. It can be used as offensive. It can be used as defensive. It depends on who is using it. So it's like a gun. You can use a gun to defend yourself. So until you attack, it will not launch an attack. Or you can also use a gun to go and launch an attack. So without even being provocated, you just try to use your gun to shoot anybody aside. So using AI, the cyber criminal will use AI to attack. So using AI to protect is adopting AI capability to understand what is abnormal. I think that is where the difference is coming from. While one is using AI to attack you, you are using AI capability to identify what is abnormal and produce an incident response against that abnormal circumstances. Then you are protecting against an attack. But protecting against AI attack is like, we are talking of the speed and the accuracy of AI. When you use AI, before we say phishing is full of maybe wrong grammars and all that, but with artificial intelligence to generate a phishing email, errors are gone. So, but there are still some things you can identify. And that is why AI helps you with such speed. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Nick?
Yeah, I think that's actually maybe there's a better way to look at that is, perhaps the better question is, how do I ensure that I'm securing myself against the challenges that AI brings, right? And then from that question, you kind of break down is, okay, well, I can be using AI as a let's say a consumer of AI. So if my users are just doing like even web browsing and using Google Gemini or Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT, whatever, what protections do I need? So I'm a consumer of AI. Or am I a builder of AI? Am I a financial company that has a mobile banking app and I've decided to embed some AI capability for my customers in that application? And if that's an answer, if the answer to that is yes, then you need a different set of protections. But ultimately, it's, how do I secure myself against the challenges that AI poses, either as a user or as a builder?
Thank you so very much. We have another question here that says, as financial applications integrate AI-driven systems, what strategies can help ensure that machine learning models and algorithms adhere to OAPS security standards regarding insufficient logging and monitoring and security misconfiguration?
Great question.
Maybe we'll start with you, Nick.
That's a great question. There's one easy answer. I mean, the answer is you need to have an AI security solution like AppSOC, right? I mean, AppSOC is one, but that's exactly what we do, right? We scan the environments, we scan the models, we map it to OWASP top 10, as you saw in the demo, and we track security posture. So that's exactly what our solution does.
Thank you so much, Nick. Mr. Festus.
Okay, thank you. I think Nick is out. It's just still the same basic security best practices. Whether it's an AI-driven application or it's another application, there are best standard that fit both to make sure that for every application you are deploying in your system, even if somebody say, "Oh, I've given you, let me say, some variant like a robot to handle some operational jobs, routine jobs," you must ensure that you carry out vulnerability scanning and penetration testing as much as practical. Even if it's an AI-driven application, you must ensure that you conform to that. And the issue of logging and monitoring, very, very key, irrespective of the type of application, whether it's AI-enabled or it's not AI-enabled. Who has access? When somebody has access, can I log the activity of the person? Can I see the activity of the person? If the logs are not there, then you have to ensure that adequate logging is done. And somebody is saddled with the responsibility to receive those alerts and carry out investigation or monitor whatever logs you have in the system. Thank you.
All right, thank you so very much. We want to thank you as we wrap up for the day. Yes, there's another question here. I think, how is pricing determined? What variables are used and obtain pricing to a client? I think that the Cyberspace team will take up with you to address that. Like I said earlier, we're going to take care of that. So as we wrap up this page, we needed to understand that a detailed understanding of what we are discussing here is quite required for the industry. The industry needs to understand very aptly what is full trust, what is zero knowledge, what is zero trust, what is zero knowledge. And like I said, the next phase that's popping up at the moment, they're already talking about zero trust and full knowledge. So by the time you're getting to zero trust and full knowledge, that means everything is in place. And all of these things is not one product, but they are principles. So understanding what this entire landscape is based from this perspective is crucial to the direction, the entire globally, it's not only Nigeria, the entire industry is growing. And we are poised to help the industry to actually take a look at all of these details to know the dimension and the directions that we need to go. So it is stated today by our first speaker, Mr. Festus, and that was a shocking statistics where he said that 37.35%, if I'm not missing, are internal actors. That is simply a gross failure from the principle that zero trust has actually put out there. And is very dangerous, very, very dangerous. That is speaking to about 50% of what is happening is happening from inside. That is dangerous. And that's the core principles of zero trust. We also know very well today that zero-day security vulnerability is picking more momentum strongly, and that is opening up much more what zero trust is speaking to. A zero-day attack is more dangerous. Before you wake up and everything is gone. We also talked about today the application security loopholes, which are about 10, which we encourage the industry need to take a look at very quickly. And we're very much available to see how we take you through all of that for understanding that is required. It is also said the vulnerability frameworks also need to be looked at very, very strictly so that you can be well positioned for what is upcoming as we're progressing. It is also spoken to how well do you know the swipes techniques, getting more strengthened in the attack space. So you could see we're no longer talking about, for instance, English is no more correct by the way the person wrote the English. You will know this one is no more there with the existence of the AI. So we are getting more open up by the day in a very, very clinical way without being caught, without being detected. Okay, so how are you prepared for AI attack strategies? These are questions we are leaving with you from all the lessons we have learned today. AI shared responsibility model, how well do you understand them? Okay, how well are you positioned to step into the use of AI or development of AI for internal use purposes? You can see both speakers stressing something about understanding the AI and understanding the security for the AI. That are different areas the industry need to take a look at. If not, you jump into an AI, that same AI is the one that's catching your house. That same AI is the one making things go wrong. So that's exposing your data, that is exposing a lot of things. So you need to secure the AI and also have the AI understanding this AI, and there's a security for the AI. That is actually being spoken to, stressed by both speakers. Under the AI governance and security risk consideration, how well do you know it based on your business that you are covering at the moment? We want to appreciate the entire attendees. First, for you being here, quite appreciate you. We know that we are quite available to address every need. The team is very set. You want to get down to nitty-gritty of every detail that has been spoken about today. The team is very much available to bring every expertise on the table, and then you get down on the top. And we also want to give our appreciation to our speakers, Mr. Festus Amede, who is the current chairman of the CISO Association in Nigeria and financial institutions. So we also want to say thank you, Mr. Festus. We also want to appreciate Nick Sears, who is the VP sales from AppSOC. We
Thank
want
you.
to say, if we call on both teams again, you will be with us in the shortest possible time. Mr. Festus and Mr. Nick, we quite appreciate you for this session. On this note, we want to draw the curtain to a close and hope to release the next one, which will be driving in more deeply in this same area. We'll be discussing some very specific things. So we need to prepare yourself, industry. We are moving forward. Thank you and have a very blissful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
You too.